Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. How y'all doing? I'm so glad to be here with all of you because why? Why not? Where else would I want to be? I get to hang out with all of you cool people. Cool people. That is right. And hey, it's just the way it is, people. Just the way it is. And I love it. I love it. And thank you for being here each and every night. It's been a good day. Been a very good day, and I got a good hair day going, and the beard is starting to thicken up for winter, which is always nice. Let us say hello to Ann B in the gold medal position. We got Race Fan in the silver, Tim Mothman and Tim Mothman's goatee sharing a bronze medal tonight. And in the chat room, we have Laura Lobbs, Roy Boy, and Jack Clark. Michael Morris, our attorney at large. How are you? Dino Bravo fan, Robert Lamoth, Brown Dwarf. Nice to see you all. Hello, gorgeous Amy WC. And Mama Susan. Rocket 9 is here. Rocket 9 will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Continuing on, we have our favorite Marine, Black Dragon. Thank you for your service, my man. Sabrina, Stephanie Kenny Blankenship, and Susie B. Thank you for joining us. Here we go. Luscious Jewels, good to see you. High Desert Rat. And who else is here? Neil Warden has returned. All right. And Eternity Eternal, what's going on? How you doing? Neil, I did pass your email on to Pixie Lara. I did. You asked me to, so I did. Kurt M., good to see you. Asteroid, how you doing? W. David Page, Chillgasm. Millennium, my man. W. Decker, what's going on? Richard Elmore. And Karen in the Woo Train, what are you up to? Evan Walters is back. He's so pissed off. He'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Don't make eye contact, though. He's too angry. Too angry. Won't sign if you make eye contact. Susan Alloway. Mark Sanchez. How's the Hawaiian shirts? Roger Murray. What's going on? Roger. Jessica S. The lovely and talented Kira, how are you? The snappy and always preppy Pixie Lara. We love you, my dear. And let's see, who else do we have in the chat room here? Grant and his lip blade have returned. Just another guy named Harry. Christine Lynn, how you doing? Nick Adkins and Lee the Bee. What's going on? Okay, moving on here. We have Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Toothbrush, how are you? Sandra Kincaid, Nick Adkins, and Alan Deegan. What's going on? The lovely and talented Aussie Ange has returned. She always likes a good wave, so let's wave back. Just like that. Okay, let's see. Who else do we have? Vash the Impaler. And we have, scrolling up, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Griff, my man, how you doing? And let's see, Alex Sanchez, thank you for joining us. And there's little Robbie G right there. How you doing, buddy? Dewey Cheatham and How. Bar Madison, welcome to SOR chat as we watch Geraldine take a shot of the stiff stuff right there, behind the scenes, because, she likes a good hardcore water. That's right. And I'm going to join her here momentarily in the water. Let's see here. Rafin, thank you for joining us. Oh, gosh, we got to start the radio side. So we can let Bill WD40 into the chat room so he can lube us up for tonight's show. Nikki in Seattle, how are you? Dewey, and let's see, scrolling on down. Hey, we're caught up. We are caught up. Reminder to all of you, the super chat is open. Hi, Stu Gerson and Science Melinda. This super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And for just $5 a month, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. And I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I'm getting a collection of hats around here. It's awesome. I'm so happy about that. And shop at our store, spacedoutradio.com. Hi, Draculticon. What's happening? It's woo o'clock. That is right. And we're going to have a fun night. Here comes Geraldine. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a wonderful show of information tonight as Geraldine Orozco from Bay Area Meditation will join us momentarily for the Spiritual You. And then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton will join us with another creepy story, followed up by the return of Super Duke on the Cryptid Report. I love this time of month. I really do, because one of my best friends in this field, Geraldine Orozco, returns for the Spiritual You. She researches the role of DNA as the currency of the past, present, and future, with consciousness as a catalyst. A life-changing experience in 2013 activated her psychic abilities. Then in 2017, she underwent several hypnotic regressions with vetted therapists to find out what went on. Regressions uncovered a lifelong history of abduction from aliens and participation in the human hybridization program. Her life is now dedicated to the dissemination of knowledge of hybridization programs and the correction of the commonly held dogma of the human genetic timeline, historical record, and human structure. Geraldine's website is GeraldineOrozco.com, and there she is, the legend herself, her hair looking absolutely fine. Geraldine, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio, my friend. How are you?
Hello, Dave. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. As always, it's such a gift. Thank you.
Oh, it's always a gift when you're here. And you know, it is that time of year again, Geraldine, where we start doing the temperature check for you, because I know you always like to know what temperature it is outside of SOR headquarters. So we're going to find out for you now.
All right.
You know, because I know that you absolutely love it when it is below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And it is 9 degrees Celsius, 48 degrees Fahrenheit right now outside the studio.
Are you serious? Already? Wow.
Yeah. We're like 3 weeks away from snow. 3 weeks away. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm still in shorts.
It's amazing. You are so blessed to be able to have those beautiful brown cells that you have in there. that insulate you from that cold. Here, we're actually enjoying 70-degree weather in San Francisco. It is so beautiful. So I hate to rub that in, but it is. We're not even there yet. We will be getting there in winter soon. So
Yeah, where by gosh, it'll hit 55 degrees in San Francisco soon.
soon.
Holy, how do you live? How do you live? My dear, you know what? It is always the best of times when you were here on the Spiritual
Yeah.
You, because we always have so many different topics that we can generate and talk about. And, it is the month of the paranormal as we encroach towards Halloween. And have you always been a big celebrator of Halloween?
No, no, not at all, actually. Um, no, but I am actually hosting this month because it's going to be Dia de los Muertos beginning in November. And then, of course, Halloween, where we're kind of, we kind of celebrate, I guess, in some way, these subconscious unknown parts of us, of humanity, of the collective. And I'm actually just doing a challenge starting tomorrow based on integrating the laws of birth and death. Okay, I don't know why it just came to me this morning in a meditation, that we are so afraid of death. We're so afraid of dying. We're afraid of having loved ones depart. So, this really takes up 90% of the things that are subconsciously feeding into our fears and into our weaknesses of humanity. So we should talk about that. And so we're going to do 30 days of integrating those laws, understanding what that's about and how we can integrate them in order to no longer fear death, be perhaps more empowered in that state. So that will be my contribution given the theme of the month.
My absolute fear in life is death.
Yes.
Absolute fear.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I don't look forward to it. And you know what scares me about it? Okay, what scares me about it is the fact that um, what if there is no other side? What if there is? What if there is no other side? What if we've been BS through all this entire area and the Darwins are right? That's what bugs me about it, because I just don't let. We get ripped off in life. We do. We don't get to live long enough. We don't get to enjoy long enough. Okay. And just when things start to get really, really good, poof, you're dead. Boom. Could be a car accident, could be a bomb, could be a heart attack, could be, that it's just your time to go. Don't like it. Don't like the thought of it. So I am going to do you a favor tonight. I'm going to put my anxiety to the side of death, and we're going to talk about the transitioning of the spirit and what happens here. Are you cool with that?
I'm super down. Let's talk about it.
All right. All right. So, death. Yeah. Yeah. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, you're asking me? Absolutely. I can't wait to talk about it. Yeah. So let's dive in. I mean, there's so much to talk about this topic. First of all, I mean, your question is completely valid. How do we know that there's something waiting on the other side? And really, what we can kind of look at and observe as some level of proof, perhaps you can say, or experiential proof, is that we have thousands of people around the world that have talked about their near-death experiences and their experiences when they cross over, and their ability to be in between dimensional states, not only looking down at their physical body, which is in the process of crossing over, but also being aware of something else being available beyond that. So I think that is one of the most powerful phenomena, you can say, that we experience as humanity that has these near-death experiences. Me, as being an experiencer of that near-death experience myself, completely changing my perspective of death. If it wasn't for that near-death experience, I think I would also still have this incredible fear. And in my early journey, noticing the profound impact of fear of death and how it changed choices that I made in my life, how it changed the way I felt about myself, how I choose to express myself and to be myself. I mean, so many people curb their expression and kind of limit themselves and shrink themselves because of the fear of death. And what we don't really realize is that, our fear of death is so deeply, deeply ingrained into the survival mechanism of our biostructure that literally our body is designed to be in a state of survival in order to avoid that death. And that's very much part of our instinctual part of us, the logical reptilian brain that is always making sure that we are taken care of and we're not going into that, pit of fire, walking into a pit of fire unconsciously. So we are utilizing, but how do we navigate these kind of biological, biochemical, systems that are keeping us alive and protecting us from death in order to expand into our highest expression without limitation? And this is where we have to go beyond the illusion of the physical, the illusion of the matrix, which we see in the world around us. And in order to do that, we have to reconnect with ourselves. And I think that most people and most of these ancient sages that have practiced meditation and gone deep within their self-inquiry discover that with the reconnection of the self, you discover way more than just the physical realm, than just this physical matter, than the physical body. There is an interdimensional aspect of ourselves that perhaps runs this hologram, this simulation type construct that we are existing within. And our participation of the co-creation of the experiences that we have in this construct are incredibly driven by our subconscious programming. And even further, which we'll talk about, is the ancestral influence of programs that we inherit. How did our ancestors die? How do we have that trauma embedded within us? And we see that through a lot of research done through Holocaust survivors, right? How the human just completely changes the way that they are, their emotional states, what they're willing to, the chances and the difficult things that they're willing to accept in their life as experiences. Sometimes it's reduced to a very small pool of choices as a result of this collective trauma. So there are several elements here that we want to understand, but all of these little separate parts help us understand that there is much more to this human experience that is encoded in our DNA that we're experiencing as humans.
With that human experience that goes on, we see the ups, the downs, the hurt, the pain, the lies, the deceit, the honesty, the integrity. We see everything every day. And then we see the facade of social media that kind of kicks in on that, which is the greatest hiding place ever for people to be whatever and whoever they want. And I look at it as, how real are we now? How real is society when, we see, these so-called influencers faking photos that they're on a beach in Bora Bora, when in reality they're in their New York studio apartment with a green screen behind them, right? I mean, how real are we? I mean, this is becoming very 1984-ish.
Yes, and I love that you brought that up because it's definitely something that, I think one of the benefits, I guess you can say, of this kind of illusion that we are feeding in through these facades and the masks that we play, is that the lines between what is real and what is fake and what is imaginary, it's becoming very blurred at this point. Now, the downside of that is that we live in fantasy worlds. We create our entire life is constructed based on reaching fantasy goals, reaching wealth, reaching beauty standards that are created by industries, reaching relationship goals without us having a profound understanding of ourselves and even the basic fundamental emotional, basics of humanity, because we're so severed from our own internal connection, because our attention is purely on these illusions and these ideas of everything, our identities, our sex, our religion, our cultures, relationships, family structures. Our reality is highly compartmentalized in such a way that we, having these separate compartmentalized things make us feel very separate and make it very difficult to link our everyday life with what we're seeing. So one of the things that we again want to try to reinforce is the reconnection with ourselves, deep states of meditation, really coming into a deep contemplation about the origin of our own perceptions, and the deprogramming of the matrix programming, the deprogramming of the influences that we are taking on subconsciously, unconsciously, from the external stimuli, especially social media is one of the things. But for those of you that don't, I think a lot of people are moving away from television and social media, and beginning to kind of go deep within their own internal connection, connect more with nature. And I think it's actually in our reconnection with nature, which I think the pandemic has also kind of forced humanity into as well. Because people were either closed up in their homes, or we go out in nature. We push so much for humanity to go out and connect, because it's when you align with nature, with these greater cycles of life and death that are existing within the laws of this nature, that we can see the truth, and that we can connect with our bodies and understand those cycles within us. So, I mean, it's just a matter of returning back to that natural state of being, to that connection to the earth.
The connection to the earth is biblical. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Where we're supposed to go by. And let's face it, you got a real choice here. You could be incubated, you could be buried, or you could be ground up into ashes in a fire, which I think is the better choice of the two, because who wants bugs eating them, to be blunt. And I've already got my spots planned out. Where my favorite fishing spots, that's where old Davy's going to go, rather than in some cemetery with a
That's
bunch of
great.
old people. But nonetheless, as we mature and as we age, our mind still thinks we're quite young. It's our body that tends to feel that it is starting to give way. I get pains all the time where I never knew I even had pain before. You know, turned 50, I turned 40 and it happened. I turned 50, it happened again. Right. So, I mean, is it just an adjustment, or can a young mind keep a young spirit make you last longer?
Well, I think our science is catching up with us. Catching up. We are. Science is catching up with our natural awareness of ourselves, because encoded within us is the key to longevity. And it's something that has been studied for a very long time, even through Taoist energy cultivation practices, is the ability and the art of cultivating our life force actually creates longevity. And all of these secrets that have been practiced for centuries and centuries, have been very suppressed, and they've been suppressed by these agendas and, the world that has become very consumer oriented and very dependent on the external. It's all of that dependency has been enforced into our subconscious minds through social engineering. The idea that we must depend on certain kinds of foods, so we have to consume them, depends on certain medications, certain ways of being. But in reality, the elixir of that longevity is actually within us, all along. And it's the conservation of life force. And what is life force? Life force essentially is two things. It is our emotional energy representing energy in motion, which is essentially the energy and the input that we put into the holographic structure for creation of experiences. And number two, it's our sexual energy, because our sexual energy is our most creative. It's what allows us to bring and anchor an entire soul into this earth. Okay, so it's a very potent energy that we hold within our body, and the depletion of that is one of the things that causes aging. for men and women. And it's really amazing because through social engineering and through the influence of the sex industries, really everything utilizes sex to manipulate humanity now, right? It's advertisements, music, social media, um, films, you name it. There is an influence of utilizing sex in order to get messages across, in order to deliver certain influences and manipulate and hypnotize people into behaving certain ways. So these kinds of manipulations are something that the person that is unconscious, asleep, and disconnected from themselves would easily be falling into. Okay, so that being said, the utilization and the abuse of these kinds of energies, which we have not been taught because these techniques have been suppressed, it creates in limiting the longevity of a human. And if a human knows how to cultivate emotional, harmonious coherence in their body, so regulated nervous system, okay, it is proven, okay. Another aspect that is proven for longevity is that the human doesn't eat as much, okay. It doesn't mean they're going to starve themselves, but the eating and the foods that they're eating are raw, whole foods, and we're not overeating and then satiating sugar cravings, all of these imbalanced and hormonal imbalances that are artificially created by artificial foods, which we are now consuming. So all of these things create illness. They create inflammation. The emotional body is the number one creator of inflammation in the body. When we are in constant states of stress, we are creating inflammation in the body that create all kinds of illnesses. All illnesses are rooted in inflammation in the body. And so that creates a destruction of the hormonal system, and then the organs, which begin to deteriorate, right? Our systems are so incredibly complex and interconnected that every single one of our organs processes different emotions, and they have magnetic fields, right? So if our environment becomes really, really toxic, energetically and emotionally, of course, the human depletes their life force because they're in a constant state of survival. So we have to learn how to hold back our energy. Number one, our emotional energy, stop depleting that. And I'll just give you one quick tip how to stop depleting that is to try to come back into a state of neutrality without being in a state of constant judgment. Anytime that we judge or apply meaning to something that is external to us, we immediately begin to leak energy out of our bodies. Okay. And so what happens is that at the end of the day, it's like we have holes all over our body, and we've just depleted all this energy and we're exhausted and we're tired and we're sick. Okay. So imagine that you have a sphere around your body and that sphere is completely solid, and you understand, you cultivate every moment in the present moment, that everything inside of the sphere is what you can control and everything outside of the sphere is what you cannot control. And these are some very powerful techniques that have been used for centuries by people in order to create longevity, and energy exercises, which I can talk about a little bit more, but I'll stop there for now.
Well, we got 1 minute to go here. And where do you think we go when we die? What happens?
Oh boy, there's so much to talk about there.
Well, we can carry that over. Let's just warm it up here.
Well, just to say, first of all, we need to understand that we are multidimensional beings, multidimensional, which means that in your waking state, in your life right now, you are constantly moving in and out of dimensions. So the question is, first of all, are we really leaving somewhere when we die, or are we continuing the navigation of these dimensional layers as we transition from a more dense state into a non-physical state? And I'll just talk a little bit about some of the things that I have learned through the incredible hypnotherapies that I do, and also people and clients that have had near-death experiences that can help us kind of form architecture to this, afterlife, I guess you can say.
Well, on that note, we're going to hold on. Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. Where do we go when we die, when we return on Spaced Out Radio? Are we going to heaven? Are we going into the stars? I want to come back as a great white shark. Just seems fun. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. All right, we are clear.
Awesome.
We are clear. And how you been?
I've been fantastic. How about you?
I am great. I am very great.
What's new with you?
You know what? I will tell you this. Over the last 2 weeks, I don't know what the hell has happened to me. I had a situation where normally I would blow up.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And ever since I didn't, karma has been kicking my ass for the good.
That's wonderful.
I've never had this before.
Look, sounds like you broke a pattern there, a powerful pattern.
I really don't know, but I can tell you that things that I needed to happen have happened. In my daytime job, I had a real emotional. I actually said a prayer for these people because back in summertime, and I even mentioned this on the show. Back in summertime, there was a young 8-year-old boy who died due to the in our town due to his asthma couldn't handle the thickness of the forest fire smoke.
Wow.
And I had to deal with his parents.
Oh.
And during my daytime job, and I, with everything going on, they've struggled as anybody would. And I just walked through the hallway of my work and I went, God, you got to give me this one. You got to give me this one. They've had too much. You got to give me this one. And be damned if the next day everything went perfect.
Oh, Dave, that's so wonderful.
And I have just been on a run of awesomeness.
That's
awesomeness. Great. And it's funny because I feel myself in the last 2 weeks, especially losing weight over it. I've noticed that I'm not as tired in the morning. And my hair, it looks fantastic. And, not as good as yours. I mean, yours is an 11 out of 10, but I'm a serious 9.8 right now.
You look amazing, Dave. How beautiful. Do you see how this is such an example? And I'm so happy people are hearing this because, just your choices can change your entire state of being, your health, your well-being, and manifesting. You're manifesting because you're vibrating at a different vibrational frequency right now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But I'm not taking shit, though. I'm not taking shit, but I'm not expressing the way I used to.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. I'm taking that breath in and I'm like, okay, how do we deal with this in a non-Dave way?
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
This shit works. I'm not even kidding you.
Wow. I'm so proud of you, Dave. How exciting. And I can just think of 10 years ago, how it would have been a different response, different reaction.
Oh, completely.
It's beautiful.
Completely. Yeah. So I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And Rexamillion, how you doing, man? But I am manifesting some really good things coming down the road. And for the first time in a long time, I'm not saying what if or if it happens. I'm saying when it happens. There
you go. There you go.
And so I'm just I'm telling you, I'm trying this stuff out. Okay, between you and my other guru Kira, you guys have been beating it into my brain for the last few years. So I'm trying it out. And I know that the message has always been out of love.
Yes, love.
Pure love.
Yes.
Pure love. That's right. So I'm going with it. I'm
That's
going with it.
huge.
See where it goes.
When we overcome that fear of loving, because loving is fear, it's scary sometimes,
Totally.
because you have to be vulnerable, and you have to like do all kinds of things that you don't, not defending yourself necessarily. So it's a really powerful, brave thing you're doing.
But you know what? I always used to be a why me guy.
Mm-hmm.
Why does this happen to me?
Okay, yeah.
Now, now I'm saying, why not me? Why
There you
not?
go. Wow.
1 second. We got like 12 seconds. Thank you to both Lori and Debster for the amazing super chats. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you. Here comes the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott, your host of the Mighty SOR. I want to remind you, if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon for the SOR Space Travelers Club. Here is Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. Geraldine's website, GeraldineOrozco.com. She is the owner of Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California. And her hair is always done perfectly for this show. Even though on radio you cannot see it, I will be the eyes for you. Geraldine, welcome back.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me once again. Such a pleasure.
All right. We are into the topic of life after death. Where do we go?
All right. So let's talk about it this way. First of all, I want you to think back for a moment and consider the many ancient cultures through history that have studied the afterlife. Okay, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian work with the dead, the Mayans work with the dead, the Hindus, the Japanese cultures, the Chinese cultures, many of the ancient sub-Asian cultures, Africans, Europeans. Okay, death has always been revered as one of the most powerful transition points in a human's life. Now, in addition to this research that all of these different ancient cultures have amounted to and collected over these different eras, one of the things that we see is the connection between the conversation of death and the conversation of what happens in our dream state. Okay, so I want you to consider for a moment that actually death is the prolonged state of what is occurring to you in your dream state. In your dream state, we are leaving the body, literally, and we know this biochemically, bioelectrically. We understand that this system, this physical body, when we sleep, the brain wave shifts, and our essence, our core essence, begins to enter into higher dimensional frequencies through the brain waves that we are entering into different realms. Okay, and so we navigate these realms in dream time. And sometimes our dreams can be extremely abstract. Sometimes they can be extremely clear. And sometimes we even have incredibly lucid dreams in which we're completely conscious that we're dreaming, but we are aware, we remember vividly, and we can even change the events that happen in that dreamscape. So one of the interesting things that we are noticing by researching past life experiences through hypnotherapy, near-death experiences, and these incredible lucid experiences, what they have in common is that there are literal constructs that we are entering into, that we potentially have the ability of some level of control, some level of navigation in these realms. So what the ancient Egyptians and Tibetans talked about, and many of these ancient cultures globally, was how to prepare to navigate the afterlife. And there have been created all kinds of sciences about preparing the body for the perfect death. We literally, in our physical bodies, have encoded within the architecture of our body a way of detaching from the body, which is most beneficial, most productive. Okay. And in order to train the body to have this productive death, which essentially, I'm going to just give you the cheat sheet of that, which is essentially we are learning how to create implosion within our bodies. Okay. Which means that we train the body to enter in its highest centripetal spin, because again, we have architecture to our body. We have a structure, a geometric structure to our body, which is what we call the Merkaba. Okay. And that Merkaba, when we cultivate that Merkaba by the reallocation of our life force from the lower bodies to the higher bodies, we literally have the ability of activating this geometry. And this geometry is the key to leaving this dimensional realm into the next dimensional planes, or many planes. Okay, and one of the things that have been also seen is that actually we have the ability of entering many dimensional layers, even extremely high dimensional layers. People have navigated up to 44 dimensions, 55 dimensions, all these dimensions that as they go higher in that number, in that construct, the more non-physical they are. In other words, there is no form of the body anymore. On the way there, we seem to encounter a plethora and ranges of species and manifestations of some beings. It can be angelic beings in the higher realms. It could be alien type beings, okay, and going down into entities, attachments, ghosts, and the disembodied souls that are living within the ninth up to the 10th dimensional layer of this morphogenetic field within the earth. So those are like ghosts. Those are essences that are trapped in between dimensions. Okay, so how do they become trapped? It is a disconnect between the frequency of the person detaching from the body that is so dense in their frequency that hasn't created that Merkaba-like architecture to be able to leave the physical body into another higher dimensional plane. So they become trapped in between. And so it's very interesting, because one of the most interesting elements of this is the element of the entanglement that occurs with a human, because it seems that our entire life, we have life experiences which unfortunately most of us carry out quite unconsciously. So we're not lucid, not even in waking state. Okay, so all of these ancient cultures stress the fact that we need to train lucidity. We need to train lucidity in waking state by being in the present moment, and we need to train lucidity in dream state in order to prepare to have lucidity or any level of control at the time of your death. So when we navigate this life, not in a lucid state, completely unconscious in hypnosis, we actually create something, we become entangled. We create something called cords. And these energetic cords attach us to all the people, places, and things that we entangle with, depleting our life force in a centrifugal state of being. Okay, so there's two ways that our human organism functions. Either we're centripetal, which means spinning inwardly, or centrifugal, spinning outwardly. Everything is depleting, exiting the body. Okay, so the perfect death, and my favorite person to talk about this that does an incredible job is Dan Winter. Please do check out his YouTube channel, talking about perfect death, perfect implosion in order to create death. He talks about the deep physics of that, and it's profoundly spiritual, because he's explaining everything that people that have near-death experiences are witnessing and experiencing, and also what the ancients have been talking about. So there are ways to navigate, and if the afterlife or these infinite realms, because another element is that there appear to be infinite dimensional layers that exist, simply because there is an architecture, and that architecture seems to function in a fractal form. Fractal means self-similar, and it's infinite, which means that what we are in our physical bodies is a fractal of infinite potential. We actually are that infinite potential. So at the time of death, when we leave this temporary experience of separation, which is what we're here to do in the three-dimensional realm, which is why we experience such contrast in the material, we reunite back into a wholeness, back into that infinite potential, into that whole, in order to leave. And what creates a negative death or an unproductive death is the human that isn't able to reunite themselves, to reintegrate themselves, to embody and remember again through that ancestral memory that they are that infinite potential. What happens is they become confused, lost, and then attached in between dimensional states, which is where we have things like ghosts emerge. Okay, so yeah, I'll stop there, and then we can see where we want to go with that.
Okay, so if the ghosts are emerging, and do we have a choice then? If we want to become a ghost, if we want to reincarnate, if we want to go to a different planet and set up shop there, or open up a bingo hall on Mars. I mean, what do we got going on here? Is it our choice? Is that the free will?
Yeah, so lots of questions in that one question, because there's a couple of things that we got to talk about. First of all, now there's something when it comes to time, because, again, when we incarnate in this physical, we think of time as being completely linear. There's a beginning and an end, and we really think that the beginning is the past. It doesn't exist anymore. But in reality, everything that we experience in the present moment, it is existing forever. It exists forever, infinitely. It exists forever in our field energetically. Okay. And depending on the intensity, the emotion, energy, and motion that we input into every present moment, it defines that moment by a vibrational signature that is collected within your field. And your entire life, if you think about that, is a collection of these signatures, these vibrational signatures, these inputs that you've collected through your life. If you collect a lot of low vibrational signatures, a life of absolute suffering, disconnect, separation, confusion, suffering, it creates a vibrational frequency that will make you a match, because there's laws to this universe. So the interesting thing is that we exist in a construct that has certain laws. One of those laws is the law of resonance, vibrational frequency, physics 101, right? So our vibrational frequency makes us a match through the vibrational frequency to the next thing we're going to experience. We experience this micro macro, okay, Fibonacci fractal form. We experience it every moment with what we're inputting into this experience. And we also experience that in the bigger picture as our entire life. Because at the moment of death, if you are full of really low vibration emotions, your vibrational frequency will have a certain limit to its ability. So that frequency won't be able to enter into a higher dimensional frequency. Okay. Now, there's another overlay to this that's really important to understand, that when we incarnate into this dimensional realm, it's only one of your infinite fractals. Okay, so imagine you become fractalized in this realm in little micro fractals, but you also are fractalized in the bigger picture of the whole. Okay, so everything that you are from the source that has become separate, that has experienced separation, is refracted through dimensional layers on the way into this expression. And you have access to all of those refractions. You access them during your dream state, and when you enter into other brainwave states that let you access these dimensions. Which is why the ancients talked about dream walking, and also out of body experiences. We are literally in these lucid dreams, we are existing and accessing these fractal lives There's simultaneous lives of ourselves that we can access through vibrational resonance in order to change, heal, access, our current experience. Okay, so we exist simultaneously in all dimensional layers. So that being said, only this part of you, the Dave that's here, the Geraldine that's here, the Debster that's here in the chat, are the ones that are experiencing this moment for the specific experience of this life. And that is encoded by a couple different things. Within your DNA, you hold ancestral memory, okay? That essentially, if you think of all of the actions that your ancestors have done collectively, they have manifested you into being. It has drawn you, brought you into the incarnation for you to experience this life exactly the way as it is, which is a representation, a manifestation of all the prior experiences. Okay. So, in order also to have a better death and to be able to get into higher dimensional levels, we have to reintegrate, kind of clean up the lower cap dimension for frequencies that we are holding within our DNA. And that's where DNA activation, deprogramming comes into play, because essentially, just like what you did, Dave, you're breaking these ancestral patterns of responses in your life, and immediately it changes your reality. Okay, so you continue doing something like this, your collective frequency changes, and the time of your death, you now have raised your frequency into another octave, which allows you to be able to access other dimensional layers of you that are in resonance to that higher. When you don't access those higher dimensional layers, you're going to come back into the reincarnation cycle. And unfortunately, we seem to kind of relive the same level, that the highest level that we've reached and the lowest level that we reach basically are the parameters in which we continue to reincarnate and cycle over and over again. It seems to be the nature, the architecture of this reincarnation in this dimensional realm.
Okay, so if we have a choice of the free will that goes along with it, what about reincarnation? How does that affect reincarnation? Because, if I had my free will, I would still want my mom and my dad from this lifetime, because I'm connected to them. I would want my friends around. I'd want everything to be similar, yet it's always so different. I mean, you go into a reincarnative state, there may be lessons that you need to learn that that are pretty tough, whether it's living in the droughts of Africa and not having food, or in an abusive household, or poverty in areas where parents have to sell children in order to make food. I mean, that happened during the Depression era, back in the 30s and 40s, and it's still happening in other parts of the world. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's a pretty tough lesson to learn.
That's right. That's right. But a couple things that I have learned, and I'll tell you why I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. Number one, my personal near death experience. Number two, my experience of navigating these higher dimensional realms. Number three, working with hundreds of people in hypnotherapies and having them navigate past lives, having them revisit death processes, because it's very important to revisit those death processes in order to understand how they access next lifetimes. It's something that I'm very interested in my hypnotherapy work. And it is unbelievable how every single human that I've worked with, their death process, it's similar. They detach from the body, they enter into kind of a null space. They all go into a construct that seems to be like a space or like a white light or like a void. And then they are reallocated into another lifetime. And what we discover by like researching these hypnotherapies is that it seems to be that we kind of float through similar kind of scenarios in these lifetimes until these lessons are learned. And literally, even so, the past lives that we have, we're also sharing with our ancestors. So a lot of times, In past lives, they begin to see a life when they're a farmer, and they're experiencing profound poverty, and then the person that's abusing them, they find that it's their aunt. Okay, so you come back into this life. What do you have? You have an aunt. Your parents abandon you, so now you have to live with your aunt, and you're at the mercy of the aunt. The aunt is super frugal. She won't spend any money on you. You feel abandoned, and then you have this constant trauma of abandonment, not being worthy, and these programs of lack that have been hanging through generations. It isn't until this individual begins to heal those lack programs, to readjust those perceptions, that she breaks both of those lives. She heals both of them in that hypnotherapy. And then, she emerges back and she completely changes her patterns of behavior. Okay, so as you can see, it's very interesting, but the key about this, it's very interesting, this concept of consciousness. Remember, consciousness changes when it's observed. So think of yourself as this manifestation of consciousness. When you come into the present moment, you're in a state of observation. So now the program is going to begin to change. And actually, the only time the human has any power or any level of free will, and I'm going to go deeper into that in just a moment, is when they're completely in the present moment. Absolutely the only time. Because when you're completely lucid in the present moment, you're aware as to what you're inputting and why. And immediately, those whys are informed by ancestral programs that you're holding subconsciously in your DNA. And they're also accessing simultaneous lifetimes that you're constantly moving in and out of. You're not aware of them. Most people are completely not aware of them. But this is where the human starts to experience synchronicities. Magic starts to happen in their life, abundance, manifestations, meeting people that are completely productive in their lives. All of that is by these physics of adjusting into a higher frequency of the present moment. And we see that in other lifetimes. I also see that humans have some level of purpose in this lifetime based on the collection of all of these traumas and lives that they haven't transcended. So, for example, some people have really lives as sages, seers, monks, that reach levels of enlightenment that are just incredible. But one little thing, which is, let's say, the self-doubt, just allowed them to misuse their energy or to abuse their power in some way. And then they fell. It was that fallen angel, right? And so they have generations of this suppression of wisdom and power in their families. And it isn't until in this lifetime, what I notice is that every new generation is literally encoded in their DNA genetically to transcend generations of limitation. It's so beautiful. And not only are they encoded with the generational ability, but even their interdimensional or starseed influences are going to help them transcend those blockages. Some humans are accessing their Arcturian selves, Pleiadian selves, and those are streams of consciousness with a very specific vibrational frequency that is going to counter these kinds of limiting belief systems. So when they connect with those parts of themselves, boom, they're able to transcend that. And so what I see is that there's some kind of intelligent self-organization to this incarnation process of souls that in the bigger picture, everything is kind of operating in a kind of harmonious balance. In other words, your existence is absolutely designed to transcend the life that you're having. So in some way, you can say there are no victims. There are no victims. We are so intricately designed to break these patterns that it's really beautiful.
Love it. Geraldine, we got about 30 seconds to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. And you know what? You make it sound so easy. You make it sound so fulfilling. I'm still not convinced I want to go through death. Still not convinced.
Right.
But I do trust you. I do trust you. So,
Well, the thing is, it's not even about don't trust me. We have to exercise. We have to try it out for ourselves. And just like me, for example, I did this through my own personal deprogramming. I found freedom when I deprogrammed myself from adopted belief systems that I was inheriting from my parents.
I know that. You have reprogrammed me before.
Okay.
Still waiting for the tape. Spaced Out Radio with Geraldine Orozco continues right after this with hour number 2. We will also involve audience questions here in our YouTube chat or on X. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Hey, chat room, do me the favor. Put your questions in capital letters. It's easier for me to read. And George, I did get yours. Geraldine, I'm going to put you back in the green room. I'm going to disappear for a minute. And fine, put yourself in the green room. I won't do that then. Well, there we go. I put her in the green room now. I've got the power. I will be right back, guys. All right, we are back. We got just over a minute here, and we got a nice surprise as Dirty Filth has shown up to draw us a cartoon. He's finally done lifting boxes at work and has time for us. It's always nice when.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dirty. How's Dirty Filth? Where's Blobbert?
Blob is currently downstairs, I think, watching the second Ninja Turtles movie with the missus.
I
That's
see.
the one where they dressed up in their fancy outfits.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Thank you to Sweet Donnie Cho, Lori, and Debster for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. It's a great way to support what we do, along with joining the Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. And here we go with Geraldine.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Vahana. Vahana is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on our Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go, hour number 2 of the Spiritual You. Geraldine Orozco is with us, and we are so happy that she is here. She comes in near the beginning of each month to find our Zen, our Chi, and our aliens. Except tonight we're talking about death and where we go afterwards, but that's okay. Her website, make that GeraldineOrozco.com. Geraldine, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Hello, thank you.
I got a bunch of audience questions here for you.
Let's get into them.
All right. Tammy is asking, when my brother passed away, I totally lost it. I feel I had an actual out-of-body experience. And like someone shoved me back in because of my son. Even heard a swoosh when pushed. Is there such a thing?
Okay, so basically, are you saying that?
Basically, she felt she had an out-of-body experience, and because she didn't really want to be there, she was hurting for her brother, and something shoved her back in her body.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So what's happening in these cases of people experience some really profound shock? Literally, you leave your body, and the reason why is because the vibrational frequency of the information that's hitting you is not integrating into your physical body. It's such a shock. Okay, so there's parts of you that are having a hard time accepting. And so what happens is we enter this process of disassociation where we literally leave the physical body, because in that moment, the parts of the body that do start responding to the shocking information sometimes are so extremely overwhelming, the body can start to shut down. So it's part of that kind of fight, flight, or freeze response that we have in the mechanism in our physical bodies for survival. I also experienced the exact same thing when my partner passed away. It literally felt like my body was thrown 3 feet back. Like, it was just unbelievable. And I've also witnessed it with other family members when they witness a death. So this is a very common thing to experience. It is that you are leaving the body, and leaving the body because the body becomes kind of intolerable to be in. Okay, because the body begins to process biochemically, naturally, an emotional response, and that can be very overwhelming. So, in these processes of grief, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about in this challenge this month, you guys can watch free on my YouTube channel at Geraldine Orozco. But essentially, when you start to feel these separate, this disconnect, sometimes children, when they experience death, have a really hard time even acknowledging that death for a long time, sometimes 6, 7 months before they can even grieve. People have a hard time even showing the emotions for a really long time. It's really important that when we experience this, that we slowly begin the process of acceptance immediately. I find that as soon as you start accepting this, as soon as possible, you are being really compassionate with yourself, because some of us, when we are not in the body and when we don't want to be in the body because of the level of grief that we feel for a long time, essentially we develop illnesses. Okay, there starts to be a lot of abandonment for the physical body, and the abandoning of this physical vessel ends up being completely open to all kinds of parasites, attachments, even illnesses that begin to take on in the body. So it's important that we compassionately bring ourselves back, allow ourselves to feel those emotions that come up all the way. And one thing I want to mention is, remember that emotions are not scary. Many of us are terrified of our emotions because we don't know how to manage them. But in reality, if we observe them, keep in mind, not feel them through the sensory body and get stuck in the feeling of the sensory body, but interrupt that pattern once you have felt the emotion for a moment. Come into a state of observation, almost as if you're watching yourself from the outside, experiencing that emotion. And what will happen is that you will notice it'll start to lessen in its physical impact. Okay, to the point where it's just the side effects of the emotion will just disappear. All that you're left with is with some information. That information is key for you to heal. Okay, so actually, emotions are just meant to be tools. You are not your emotions, is there temporary information. So the moment you start learning how to process these emotions, the quicker you'll be able to process grief in a productive way that will get you back into your body, back into life, allowing you to feel joy eventually. And it's important that we go through that process. So thank you, Pammy, for that question.
All right, let's continue on here as we have another question from Toe Tag. After death, do the consciousness continue to seek out a new host to be reincarnated? For example, a plant, animal, or unborn fetus?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. Well, um, I based on studying so many hours of people discussing the very difficult concept of consciousness, the conclusion that I have come to, based on being able to navigate these realms and observing others in these realms, I tend to believe that everything has some level of consciousness. Okay. Now, there is a network that interconnects this consciousness to one another, and that is through the morphogenetic field. Now, the morphogenetic field is a holographic projection of DNA. Imagine the DNA being the blueprint of creation. When you incarnate into this three-dimensional realm, you abide by that blueprint in order to manifest into the form that is necessary. Okay, what defines what you're going to manifest, what form you're going to manifest into, is essentially all of the past and simultaneous fractals of yourself that exist within the morphogenetic field that most productively need at that moment. Okay, so if the morphogenetic field, if you as the whole, collectively, excuse me, choose that we need to experience you as a flower in this lifetime, that's what will be manifested. You're not going to be individually the flower. You are the collective. You are the whole being experienced as a flower. Okay, so imagine the source is experiencing through you, and everything that you experience is the source. Okay, so this is what it seems to be. Now, the other element of that, breaking that down into the details of how this form chooses the manifestation, I think is two ways. There's two ways of looking at it. Number one, as infinite potential of source, it is simply experiencing all potential through all its manifestations. And we, even though we exist in this physical vessel, through quantum non-locality, have the ability to remote view or biolocate our essence into other physical manifestations simultaneously. That is something that we have the ability of doing. So therefore, we are deeply interconnected. We are not separate from anything. Okay, so think of that as the overlay. Now, in the micro, your body, you as Tao Tag, for example, your manifestation has been manifested into the form, into this body with this lifestyle, this belief systems, patterns, and programs as a result of everything that your ancestors have done, in addition to yourself as the whole, in order to experience this. And I guess the only purpose of human, you can say, in the bigger picture, is to experience a temporary moment of going from wholeness to separation back to wholeness. And the travel or the road through that, the journey through this process, can be anything in your lifetime that's very specific to your life experiences. So in other words, there is some kind of intelligence, self-organizing intelligence, that your lifetime, all the experiences that you have, play a very important key role in the collective. Okay, every human on this planet, your life experience as a vibrational signature is a puzzle piece that must exist for the collective. And somehow there is a balance. Okay, so even those of you that think that you have the most horrible life, and you feel helpless and that you shouldn't exist, you play an integral part. Without you, the whole could not maintain its harmony. Okay, and it's very interesting because it helps people understand that their purpose is essential to this. So
Okay.
right there. Yeah.
Thank you for that great answer. And let us go to Linda, who is asking, Geraldine, I was told that we are God. What is your thought on this?
Yeah. Thank you for that, Linda. Well, the way I tend to look at it, and the concept of God for me kind of dissolved when I began to experience near-death experience for the first time, because what I discovered is that, outside of this physical body, we essentially don't have a form. We don't have a form. And if you begin to look at all of the human beings on this planet, essentially we are energy, we are life force. So what I tend to look at is that this life force has the infinite potential of creation. It has the most incredible power of creation. A human can create a life. It creates through the vibrational patterns of its words. It creates through its intention. So from that perspective, if your definition of God is the one who creates, we have encoded within our physical bodies, within the DNA and the construct of what we are, the ability to create. Okay, and in addition to that, when you look at the holographic model of this construct, we seem to be projecting the realities that we live within, the constructs that we believe are true of our lives. We input. Our level of input into the kind of lifestyle that we live is absolutely essential. And if we change that, we can also change what we experience. So another proof that we are the embodiment of that creator state. On the higher picture, I believe that we are fractals of that infinite potential. We are fractals of infinite potential for creation. So essentially there seems to be some source, and some people call the source God. But I believe that we are fractals, which is a very important keyword to understand. A fractal is self-similar of the whole. Okay, so if we are a fractal of that source, essentially we are a God. We are an embodied God. Okay, so this is kind of how I look at this concept. Essentially, I hope that answers that question, Linda.
Okay, I thought it was a great answer. Again, let's go to George here. How do you explain the spirits that stick around Earth?
Yeah, I really love this question because it's super important. One of the things that shocked me when I first had my contact experience and became intuitive as a result of that experience is that I began to see all kinds of disembodied souls all around me all the time. And at first, it was terrifying to me because I felt them so physically and visibly and emotionally. At one point, I wasn't even sure what was real and what was not real. So, what does that tell us? One of the things that I learned through that process is that these disembodied souls hold a lot of heavy emotional memory within their hologram. Okay, they are holographic structures of an essence. There is no soul connected to that. So I guess you can say there are microfractals of soul that exist within the holographic construct of these disembodied beings. Because a lot of them, when you talk to them, they actually know that their core essence isn't here anymore. It's somewhere else. Okay, so the real main soul, it moved on somewhere else. But there is a part of them that is stuck within this dimension. It's moving in between this dimension. It can't move on. And usually it's very, very identified with a belief. Very identified. And the belief is either I'm not wanted, or I'm confused. I don't know how to move on. I was never loved. I don't want to let go. This is my only home. They have profound belief systems that they are confused about their state of existence within these dimensions. So normally what will help them move on is somebody like a medium or someone that can communicate to help them see the light, okay, which is their essence, to reconnect with their core essence. It is the same when humans go through the trauma of a death and they can't get back into their bodies and they become traumatized and ill for a long time. Exact same thing. We become fractalized, okay? And remember that one of the most powerful trauma tactics of the military was to fragment a human through severe trauma in order to create alters, multiple personalities. How do you create multiple personalities in a person? You compartmentalize with belief systems. So imagine these beings, these disembodied souls, as being one of those fractals in the manifestation of a hologram, which is holding a very specific vibrational frequency at a density that is an emotional density. Okay, so what essentially happens, and another element that I want to mention, it's interesting that usually when there are these disembodied souls, there is a history of a lot of ancestral trauma in this bloodline. A lot of ancestral trauma in the bloodline. So you'll see them attaching to homes, like they won't want to leave the home. And it'll be generations and generations that the same family keeps coming into this home, and things like this, deeply attached to the physical realm. So to clean those spaces, some of these spirits are deeply attached to the earth. You'll go into forests, and you'll be surrounded by certain spirits that are deeply connected. Now, there is a difference between human disembodied souls and spirits and elementals of the earth. Very different, completely different frequency. Elementals and spirits of earth or natural lands are emerging from the essence of that environment. Okay, so they belong there. The disembodied soul or a ghost is in a state of limbo. They are confused. They are lost. There's always an element of disconnect. So that, I would say, would be the biggest difference between them. and why they stick around, and how to transmute them out of these spaces if we need to.
All right, let's continue on. We got 4 minutes here. We can ask another question here. Peppa wants to know, in years or days, what is the earliest someone has reincarnated that you know of, Geraldine?
Yeah, it can be instantaneous, okay? But the reason why, and I want to stress this again, is the element of fractals, okay? Again, remember that when an essence is incarnating into a family, I will give you an example that happened in my own life. A family member, had a miscarriage, and then they got pregnant again, and then the essence of that miscarriage, because the person is psychic, was able to communicate with the soul, and the soul came back for a second time into the child that was then born. Okay, so what I tend to see is that there's a reason for that miscarriage. Number one, that is an experience that was designed and it was meant to be. Most miscarriages in ancestral lineages are designed, they're by design, because something is ending in the essence that is infused in the creation of that fetus. That fetus is a DNA. It's a holographic construct of information, where certain programs embedded in the creation of that being, of that soul experience, have to end in that short time span of gestation in the body. Okay. Thus, remember, only the physical dies, the soul never dies. Okay, this is also how we have the hybridization program, interdimensional creation of souls, right? You're splicing the DNA to anchor the soul into an organism, okay? And then that organism, depending on how you splice the DNA, will be able to enter into different dimensional layers. But we are so interconnected. A mother has the ability to biolocate, telepathically communicate with all of her offspring in any dimensional plane. A mother can do that. And that's the same with a father. That's how deeply interconnected we are. So when we require the soul essence of a certain essence, a soul, to incarnate in this timeline in order to heal, in order to progress the ancestral lineage in a certain way, we're going to manifest that soul to incarnate. And that soul that incarnates will be absolutely equipped to move the ancestral line forward in the direction that it needs to go. It's kind of a collective choice that is done by the ancestors and the simultaneous essences that are working on this ancestral lineage. It is also similar with councils. People have councils within their DNA, ancestral groups and interdimensional beings that are communicating in order to incarnate certain souls at specific times. Okay, so to answer your question shortly, it can be immediate. Okay, and also within families, I find that the souls that incarnate, you'll notice that even the facial features of the children that are being born in your family will take on the facial features of the essence that requires the most healing in your ancestral lineage. Okay, so for example, great grandpa, died of I don't know, liver disease or something, and this child now has a child that looks exactly like him. Okay, that incarnation will hold a lot of patterns that need to end from this ancestral lineage of that lifetime. So you just need to compare those programs in order to see what's best needed for the healing of the collective. Oh yeah, I'll stop there.
Gotcha. All right, Geraldine, we have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We are going to continue with our audience questions when we return on the Mighty SOR. So sit back, relax. Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. Book your DNA reprogramming today. Why not? I have. It's a wild ride, man. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Stay tuned. Geraldine, big question.
Yeah.
Lots of people asking, have you booked us for May 10th through 12th in Reno?
May 10th through 12th next year. Yeah, you're on my calendar now. Yes.
Good,
I
good.
haven't planned May of next year yet, so absolutely. You're
Book
the
us
first
in
ones. Let me put you in there for it right now, actually.
for our fan party, which is just around the corner from you. While you're doing that, let's say good morning to the Dogman in the UK, and hello to Jay Burke and Philip Baca. Who else is stuck in here? Yes, we're doing things a little bit differently this year. We're going to have the live show on the Friday night, and then our VIP party either after that or on Saturday. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're gonna figure out. Kira is doing an amazing job at figuring out ways to get our fans to connect with people such as yourself and
Wow.
our guests. So it's going to be really cool. And if you have any ideas of what you'd like to do, just let us know.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll think about what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean connect? Like, you mean virtually?
No, this is all in person.
Oh, in person. Yeah. Like meeting and doing
Yeah,
something.
this is for our fans and our fan party.
Yeah.
Like last year in Vegas, except it's going to be way better.
Okay.
Way
That's wonderful.
and Dirty Filth is going to be there.
Oh, cool.
And handing out cartoons to anybody who will take them, because his artwork is amazing.
Yes.
And the other thing too that we're going to do is, last year I had a pair of Spaced Out Radio running shoes that we all autographed, if you remember.
Oh my gosh, I didn't get to autograph it, but that's pretty cool.
And what we're going to do this year is, all of our special guests like yourself, we're going to, when I get to Reno, I'm going to go to a music store. I'm buying a guitar, and I'm going to put Spaced Out Radio stickers on that guitar, and we're all going to autograph it for one lucky space traveler who is in attendance.
That is so cool. Wow. I love that.
Yeah. Even Dirty Filth is going to sign it.
That's so awesome. And I love this little picture he's making. That is so cute. Is that a kitty cat in a UFO? I love it.
Let's take a look.
Oh.
It does look like a cat in a UFO.
Is that, or what is it? I'm not sure.
Yes, it's Whiskey is looking for some snacks in the ocean.
That's so cute. I love it. Aww. That's cute.
Yes, I do know that's Mother's Day weekend, but even mothers need to get away from their families on Mother's Day. So I'm giving you the out to spend with us. Pixie Lara is going to be bringing a bunch of toques together, not beanies, toques. Jeremy Jones, how you doing? Does SOR pay the fee to check it in at the gate for the flight home? Yes, I will cover that cost. Lisa Davey, welcome. I know Jeremy Jones would love that guitar. Lex Diaz, thanks for joining us. Derek Galloway will hop in any bus to get there. El Ovni Volador, I haven't heard from him in a while, since Vegas. I think he's still down there. If Derek Galloway is in Reno, then El Ovni Volador will likely show up in Reno. All right. Thank you tonight to Donnie, Lori, and Debster for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. And here we go with the next half hour, everybody. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon for the SOR Space Travelers Club. Here we go, Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You, final half hour with Geraldine, and we're going to take your questions because we've been doing it all night long. Geraldine's website, GeraldineOrozco.com. Thank you for being here, Geraldine.
Hi, thank you so much once again.
And we have confirmed with Geraldine that she will be in attendance in Reno, May 10th through 12th, for the 3rd annual SOR fan party. Yep. She's going to take her private jet from San Francisco
Right?
to...
You mean UFO?
Close enough. Close enough, you know. And, you know, she's going to be there. So you got to come as well. You get your picture taken with dear old Geraldine. Yeah. And you can actually see in person how beautiful her hair is. It's unbelievable. And you can also ask her how many shoes she brought with her. So, nonetheless, I kill you sometimes. I know. Let's go to Christine, who's asking, Geraldine, will you be watching any scary movies for Halloween?
Oh, you know, I have this thing about vibrational frequency that I cannot watch those kinds of films. I can't, no. So no, I will not. I will not be watching them. I do hear that there are some very good horror films that are deep, really esoteric films, but I cannot get myself to watch any of them. So I'll just take your word for it.
I'm doing a ghost hunt on Halloween night.
Really? Where are you going?
At my museum just down the road, not my personal museum, but at the museum where I hold my ghost tour, I am holding a special ghost hunt that night.
Wow, that's awesome. Beautiful.
Yes. So we're going to scare the hell out of about 40 people.
Oh,
and,
no.
And you know what? There will not be a single person jumping from behind a door or wall saying boo. This is all a real paranormal investigation.
Oh,
and then
wow.
I'm going to lock them in a barn.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have fun.
Follow up from Chris Teen. Geraldine, have you seen any UFOs lately or ETs in your dreams?
Yeah, you know, I actually do have a dream with beings visiting a couple of weeks ago. Very interesting dream. I haven't seen UFOs, but I have a dream where these, I think they were white beings, come forth in their robes to talk to me, give me some information about what I got to do, what I'm doing, things like that. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Sabrina. Geraldine, I channel the councils of 9 and 12. Have you heard of them? And if so, have you interacted with them in your work?
Yeah, so it's really interesting to talk about councils. Every single one of us has in our DNA encoded basically all of the fractals of ourselves that exist simultaneously in many timelines that manifest into the form of these interdimensional beings. So let's say you connect more with Arcturians or Pleiadians or whatnot. That is all encoded in your DNA. So what I have learned about councils through many contactees, what they experience as well, councils are made up of several different kinds of species, usually. Okay, so different kinds of beings. It can be a combination of reptilians, the Greys, Pleiadians, Arcturians, whatever, just a whole group, a different kind. Now, each one of them have a certain deep connection to the person, the experiencer. And what I've seen is that all of these members in the council seem to have a lot of history with the experiencer. In fact, a history that goes back generations. There have been many cases where some of my experiencers and their parents, when they get to discussing the contact experience, they discover and they describe or they draw the beings that they see within the councils exactly the same. Okay, and they had not discussed it before. What I'm learning through this is that it seems that we have certain councils that are very connected to our genetic lineages. And the way I tend to see councils is that they are a holographic projection of our DNA. And whatever messages they have. The other thing is that the number of members of the council members usually define the dimension from which they emerge from. So if it's a council of 9, it's from 9th dimension. But within that dimensional layer, they can have access to many other dimensions. So they can give you information from the 17th or whatever. If it's a council of 12, again, they are within the 12 dimensional plane, but they have access to many other dimensions. Okay, so these are some things that I've seen. So every single human, now in my personal experience, since you're asking me about that, when I began to uncover more of my contact experience, I began getting a lot of powerful visitations of councils, Council of 8, Council of 9, and I talk about it actually in my hypnotherapies in Alba Weinman 133 and 176, I believe, where I'm discussing my conversations with these councils, and they give me profound information. But the way that I use this information from the councils is to learn, understand, and discern. I'm extremely discerning with the information that comes through because sometimes I see that some of these councils have very specific exchanges with us, and some of these exchanges have to be ended, some contractual agreements. So always practice your discernment when you're connecting with the information that's being given. You have to listen extremely carefully to see where natural laws are in some way manipulated or inverted in the information. I personally tend to only connect to source, as pure as source connection as I possibly can anchor, rather than interacting with these specific councils other than for research or information and integration, which is the number one important thing to do with them. There's a lot of integration process that needs to come from these the awareness of these councils. And the last thing I want to say is that every single human has councils which they connect and communicate with. So it's a very personal thing. Work with your councils. They are your guides. They are providing you help, support, information, clear out what needs to be cleared out, and always move higher up in the octaves and keep moving. Don't get stuck. If you connect with 9-dimensional counselor or counselor of 9, work with them. But once you understand your contracts with them, keep moving. Because some people get so identified, that's it. They're council of 9 the rest of their life. You have to keep. There's more. There's so much more. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Sabrina, for that.
Okay, let's go to D. Cypher. Geraldine, have you ever sat in the mirror time box? Front and back mirror is time, and side to side mirror is multiple lives. Top and bottom mirror is dimensions. Every mirror reflects off each other.
I guess this is a very specific school of thought, which I'm not very sure the origin of the specific mirror time box concept, but the way that you're describing it is really how I quite see these dimensional layers. So, yeah, I think that I resonate a lot with this concept. in terms of time, our the way that we refract within each dimensional layer. Um, but I think this is too compartmentalized for the way that I see it, though. So
It's kind
yeah,
of like being in an elevator
are you
where,
familiar with this concept, Dave?
yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of
okay.
like being in an elevator, and it plays with your head because literally for that brief moment in time, you become infinite.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah. I mean, that's definitely how you feel. That's incredible. I didn't know that this was an actual thing here. Like,
Yeah. So the
getting.
next time you're in an elevator,
Uh-huh.
okay, if you look to your left, you'll notice the reflection from behind you, which is the mirror. You'll have mirrors on both sides,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
okay, but you go on forever.
Right, 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 right. Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, is that what you're talking about? Like an actual mirror box? Yes, 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 yes.
It's kind of cool.
Interesting. Yeah,
Let's
that's
go.
amazing. Thank you,
Let's go
DC.
to Cafunia. My sister just left her earthly body on September 21st. Oh, I'm sorry, Cafunia. So
Sorry.
this helps a lot. Thank you. I am at peace with it, knowing she is an ancestor.
Yes, my love. That's amazing. Sending you so much love and support for you and your family. And yeah, so acceptance is the best thing. And join my challenge if you would like to learn a little bit more about processing grief, because I'm also going to talk about the contractual agreements that are really important to work on when people pass on, because some of us, we let them pass on without understanding our role and the work we were supposed to do with them. Okay, so you can feel free to join on my YouTube channel. Sending you so much love, and if you have any questions, you can private message me on my website. Okay.
All right, let's go over to Abbott. Why do the dead only hang around in energy spirit for a couple of days?
That's a wonderful question. It has to do with density and the way that we detach from the physical body. The moment that we detach from the physical body, there is still, let's say, an holographic or interdimensional enmeshment in between dimensional densities of the physical body and the non-physical. Um, so usually when the body starts to decompose, decompose pretty quickly, but the soul itself detaches from the body and is already, the essence of itself is already navigating out unless fractals are left behind. Okay. So the fractals that are left in between these states, by the way, a human soul can have more than one ghost fractal of themselves. There have been cases where one essence has a fractal of himself in the home and a fractal of himself in the workplace, for example, split in two, because people will experience the phenomena in these two different places with that deceased person. So it takes some time for these essences to reintegrate for their healing, for their complete departure as they become whole. But it's just, I think it's just a temporary phase in between the detachment from the physical, and as they settle in to the ghost fractal that is in between states, that ghost fractal will have a certain vibrational frequency, but it will be less dense, so it won't necessarily affect the matter as much as their physical body. So,
Can I add to that for a second?
yeah,
Because I think a lot of spirits are shocked that they've gone over to the other side. They weren't prepared for it, especially
yes,
especially now with, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a car accident, an overdose, a heart attack, or whatever. I think a lot of death today is catching people by shock where we're not prepared for it, as maybe we were 100 years ago when Grandpa Jed was, 70 years old, and his body gave out from working the farm all those years. you
right,
know so I think it's a little bit different, that with so many people just checking out these days. And I hate to put it so callously, but I look at my nephew in 2018, or I look at my mother earlier this year. We're more prepared on this side for it, but on that side, I think that they are wandering around. Okay, who do I say my goodbyes to? Who do I want to cuddle with one last time? Who do I want to spend the moment with to help them heal? Let them know that I'm there. So I think the spirit actually goes through that. And I saw that with my nephew when he passed, because, I said to my sister, she asked me, well, where is my son? I said, right now he's in your house. And she's like, where? Tell him to come see me. And she had these giant Tupperware containers on her bed that she was loading his stuff into, and those Tupperware containers started shaking.
Ha,
Okay.
interesting. Right.
And
Totally.
I think there is a point there where, instead of just going to the light now, spirit is sticking around, making sure that their loved ones are actually okay before they continue their journey to see what's on the other side.
Absolutely right. I'm so glad that you brought that up. It is an attachment. There's an attachment.
Yes.
I want to add one more tiny element to that is important for the person that is deceased as well. The confusion that they experience at the time of death. Sometimes people don't grieve in a healthy way, and they keep grieving and grieving and grieving, and they cannot accept the person passed away. This also will hold the soul back from moving on. So keep that in mind. There's two sides. The soul also wants to connect with the family that they left behind, but also we have to be compassionate too. Sometimes we hold on to the soul so much because we need them, or we believe we need them, or we can't live without them, that we hold them back from moving on. So that's another thing you might want to
Yes.
consider too when you're dealing with someone that passed away.
And one more thing, as
Yeah.
society has become less and less religious especially over the last 2-3 decades, where people are becoming more agnostic or atheist, I think what happens when they go to the other side, there's a real sentiment of being lost, don't know where to go, because they were expecting to be one and done, and then when you pass away, it's over.
Mhm.
You don't continue on. And I think there's a lot of lost spirits on the other side that are trying to find their way, because maybe they didn't believe in life after death, and it's
Yes.
confusing them.
Very good. Excellent. Yes. So important, Dave. Thank you.
All right, let's go to Rocket 9. What do you think about, or what do you know about walk-ins?
Yeah, walk-ins are a very real, phenomena that happens to us. The concept is that essentially, usually people will have a near-death experience or something shocking and dramatic will happen, that they have a level of amnesia where they completely lose one aspect of themselves that has been living that life up until that moment. And supposedly the soul, a new soul, enters into the body and then continues to live within that body. Now, the way that I look at this is a little different. In that, I don't believe it's a completely different soul, simply because we are so deeply interconnected, that essentially I believe that it's another fractal of your own self. And the reason why is because in a lot of integration healings that I've done with people that were walk-ins, what we find is that essentially there is so much resonance between the former self and the new self, and they complement each other, but probably on opposite ends. One is a higher octave than the other. The higher octave is moving forward the person, usually completing the tasks that the old aspect of themselves was not able to complete. So it's kind of like these two essence parts of them, two fractals of themselves, are working together to complete the lessons and the contractual agreements that this individual came to live in this life. Now, there's also a genetic aspect. In some of these cases, a person is completely alienated from their past family and sometimes inserted into a completely different family. The DNA and the ancestral history of the new family is like the second contract that the individual is needing to process through this organism, through that one organism that is sharing both soul integrations. So it's a profound collaboration, I believe, of healing that is occurring that sometimes encompasses more than one family ancestral line. And The humans that experience these walk-ins experience profound transformation. Their lives are completely changed, and usually they're able to do all these incredible things now. Some of them are healers, some of them are seers, psychics. So it's a powerful life contract and life experience. I'll end there.
That is a great explanation. The other thing too that you have to be careful of is walk-ins can also take over your body if you're out astral traveling.
Well, that's true. Absolutely. That is absolutely true. Which is why it's so important to be lucid when you are traveling and understand energetic hygiene when you're connecting with your body. Very important. We could do a whole show on that one. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's go to Derek. Why do I remember my dreams, and how come I wake up and go right back into the dream when I fall asleep?
That's amazing, Derek. So you definitely have a strong ancestral memory. And it sounds like you're practicing lucidity in your waking state. My next invitation for you is to become lucid in these dreams to the point where you can begin to control and navigate the dreams that you're having, especially if you're revisiting the dream and go right back to the same place. I have dreams that span years. Okay, so the dream that I started when I was 2 years old, I'm continuing that journey now in a dream. I keep continuing where I left off. And so what I've learned from these realms is that we are this is how I know that we are visiting our alternate lives. These are our alternate simultaneous lifetimes that we exist in right now. You're living and you become aware of in that moment. The moment you become conscious in that life, in that story, you are becoming aware of yourself as this lifetime and that one. So there's a cross section there. Usually there's a lot of contractual agreements and a lot of things that need to be cleared up from both realms. So try to practice lucidity. If you can learn to control, that way you can make sense of what you're doing there in the same way that you're doing in this lifetime. So that's amazing. Please continue that amazing work that you're doing.
Okay, one more question with 2 minutes to go from the Debster. Is death a painful process physically?
I mean, it can be, right? Death can definitely be a painful process physically. And I guess our job is to understand and separate the difference between the physical system and also the mastery that we have mind over matter, mind over the body. We can literally have the ability to hypnotize ourselves and go through surgery. Okay, that's something that's been practiced for a very long time, right? So if we have that level of mastery of using our mind over our physical body, we can also transcend the suffering, any suffering that we have potentially of experiencing. This is one of the keys of learning how to no longer be afraid of death, because most of us that fear death, we don't fear death as much as we fear the suffering that happens before death. So this is what we need to learn. Now, detaching from the physical body isn't usually painful unless you're going through some terrible, physical ailment of some kind. But usually there is a window between the nervous system that becomes severed from the essence when it's detaching. So usually you won't feel pain anymore after a while, that you'll just detach from the body. And, there's a window there, you become aware of yourself, and then you start to figure out where you're going to go next. This is a lot of people that have experienced these afterlife experiences. So it depends.
Geraldine, where can everybody find your work and your YouTube channel?
Yes, thank you. Please follow me at GeraldineOrozco.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on TikTok at Geraldine Orozco and Instagram, Geraldine.yorozco. If you want to have a session with me, come to GeraldineOrozco.com. It would be my pleasure. And I also have a support group, experiencer support group at hybridmother.com. As always, it's such a pleasure to be here. It's an honor. Love you so much. Thank you, Dave. And I hope to see you soon.
You will. You will. We will figure it out. And Geraldine, it's always a pleasure to have you here, my dear.
Much
And we
love.
love you so much. And we will talk to you next month on
Yes.
the Spiritual You. See that GeraldineOrozco.com is her website. Coming up next in hour number 3, Steve Stockton brings in another spooky story. Then Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio returns from the bush to talk about Sasquatch and the Cryptid Report. Spaced Out Radio coming up next. Awesome, my dear. Thank you.
All right. Much love. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, you will. Bye-bye. Take care. We love her around here, that Geraldine Orozco. We do. She's pretty good people. Look at that dirty filth art right there. We're going to just pin that right there. I'm going to disappear for a minute. Be right back, guys.
All right. I think that may have done the trick. I was jiggling the cords and pushing buttons. Well, if anybody can hear me, True Cartoon, whiskey, getting some snacks at the end of the night. And I have a little Tic Tac UFO as well. Here's me clear. Hi, Susie B. Hello, everybody else. All the cats have had multiple snacks, and they're all wrangled. I have no idea where Blob is. Super Duke is in the green room. I can confirm that. Look at him. He's right there. Anyways, I'm starving. Once Dave gets back, I'm going to go make peanut butter and cracker sandwiches. Oh, yeah. Hello, Blue Cruise and Sir Bothwell. Crap, this thing's going really fast. Seriously? Don't know how Dave does it. It's incredible. Well, I hope everybody's having a good night. And don't forget, next year, go to Reno, hang out with all the weirdos. We're going to be inside of a giant eyeball. Pizza. Ooh, I could go for a pizza. Some about Super Duke's dad is actually a Bigfoot. Wouldn't doubt it. He just disappeared. Unbelievable. Mice sandwich. Yeesh. I'd feed some mice sandwiches to my cats. Because the gargoyle and the gremlin actually like bread there. I gotta put the bread in the fridge.
Hello, Dirty.
Hello, Dave.
I see your mic on.
Yeah, I'm trying to ramp it, but everybody's just talking like a million miles a minute.
Million miles a minute, people.
metric million miles.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
So it's new in filthy land.
Well, I cut down all the rest of the sunflowers, so sunflower seeds, and the pumpkins are ready for my friend's place, so I get a couple pumpkins, and we'll have pumpkin seeds as well soon. It's the best time about fall.
You know what I like about fall? Combat
Probably not
fishing.
much on the mountains. Oh, yeah.
Combat fishing.
Ooh, you're going to be getting rowdy soon, aren't you?
Yep. It's 4 days away.
Good luck, Dave.
I'm going to do a great job.
All right. I shall see you tomorrow.
All right, Dirty. Thank you for joining us.
Good night, everybody.
That's Dirty Filth, everybody. Say hi to Blobbert for us. And now you're back to me. Thank you to Donnie, Lori, and Debster for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. And thank you to everybody who's joined our Space Travelers Club recently. Very much appreciate that. The link is below in the description. And considering the hat Super Duke is wearing, I might wear my hat here too. So let's just go like this.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Please join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vahana. Vahana is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. It is that time of the night where we say hello to Mr. Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another creepy story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. The Brown Mountain Lights in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina have long been a fascinating Appalachian mountain enigma. Visitors and locals alike have witnessed unusual glowing orbs in shades of blue, white, orange, and red, hovering about 15 feet above the ground in Brown Mountain near Morganton, North Carolina. According to legend, a fierce fight between Cherokee and Catawba braves on Brown Mountain resulted in numerous casualties. After the battle, Catawba women would search for their lost family members at night using torches to light their way. Some people believe that the lights observed today are the spirits of these Catawba women who are still looking for their lost loved ones. In 1771, German engineer John William Gerhard de Brom saw and recorded the Brown Mountain Lights in his journal. However, some doubt was cast on de Brom's account, as he claimed to have seen the lights every night, which some speculated could have been distant train lights. There have been many documented sightings of the Brown Mountain Lights throughout the 20th century, particularly after the Linville area gained access to electricity. Although these sightings are often unpredictable, the lights are commonly observed at night, particularly following periods of rainfall. The Brown Mountain Overlook, Wiseman's View Overlook, and Lost Cove Cliffs Overlook are highly sought after locations to catch a glimpse of these lights. I've seen them myself, and it is definitely worth the trip. These spots can be accessed via North Carolina 105 South or North Carolina 181 near Asheville and Boone. Regardless of the time of day, these overlooks provide breathtaking scenic views, if nothing else. And now we have the story of the Mothman. In 1966, Point Pleasant was a small town with just a few thousand residents located at the junction of the Ohio and Kanawha rivers. In November of that year, the town experienced a disturbance caused by an unidentified being. Gravediggers at a cemetery in Clendenin, West Virginia, about 80 miles from Point Pleasant, claimed to have seen a man with wings flying over their heads and taking off from a nearby tree. 3 days later, two young couples who drove near an abandoned World War II TNT plant approximately 5 miles north of Point Pleasant claimed they saw a large flying man with 10-foot wings and red glowing eyes. The individuals tried to flee from the unidentified creature, driving almost 100 miles per hour. However, the beast chased them and pursued them until they reached the city limits of Point Pleasant. Fearing for their safety, they promptly reported the incident to the local authorities. The media dubbed the creature Mothman, and the story gained national attention, making Mothman a sensation. During the following week, there were at least 8 additional reported sightings of a bird-like creature with massive wings in and around Point Pleasant. Captain Paul Yoder and Benjamin Enochs, who were volunteer firefighters, provided one of these accounts. As per the Gettysburg Times, Yoder and Enochs reported seeing a bird of considerable size with red eyes that were equally large. Some individuals dispute the reported sightings, suggesting that the people of Point Pleasant may have observed a sandhill crane that had deviated from its usual migration path. There were hundreds of eyewitnesses, says Jeff Wamsley, owner of Point Pleasant's Mothman Museum. Born and raised in the town, Wamsley was only 5 years old when the Mothman appeared and began terrorizing his neighbors. Throughout the following year, peculiar incidents persisted. Point Pleasant authorities received an influx of reports detailing UFO sightings and encounters with mysterious men in black. Furthermore, the sightings of Mothman persisted. A tragic incident occurred in 1967, just 10 days before Christmas. During rush hour traffic, the Silver Bridge, which connected Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed and caused the death of 46 individuals. According to some reports, there were sightings of the Mothman at or even on the bridge shortly before its collapse, and it was believed that the creature's presence was a sign of the impending disaster. Wamsley says, the fact that the UFO sightings, Men in Black presence, and the Silver Bridge disaster all happened during the Mothman sightings intrigues many people. It's a fascinating turn of events for a small town like Point Pleasant. According to Wamsley, the residents of Point Pleasant had an encounter with something indeed out of the ordinary. I just don't believe that many people could have made up the same story, says Wamsley. But what it was they saw, I don't believe will ever be truly explained or solved.
And we say thank you to our good friend, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing, for kicking off hour number 3 once again. If you like that story, you want more, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing and hear many stories just like that. From the missing to the mountains of Montana, it is time for the return of Big Bad Super Duke for World Bigfoot Radio and the Cryptid Report. Super Duke, the Cryptid Report with Super Duke. There he is, everyone, the man, the myth, the legend, Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. How you been doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Dave. It's been really busy summer here and starting to finally wind down. Excuse me, now that it's getting colder and a lot of years it's already pretty much uncampable. And it's kind of interesting during the fall because the nighttime temps stay about the same, but the daytime temps just keep dropping. And then you get rain on top of it too. So you're like, do I really want to be camping in the low 40s when it's raining on me? Hypothermia is a real thing.
You know, Duke, I don't know about your Sasquatch area, but mine seems to have a pattern. And I'm curious if you've heard about this or not. Mine has a pattern that it seems to be active between certain times at night. And
Yeah.
anything after that time, it is deader than a doornail, even though the forest is absolutely silent. But between about 8 o'clock at night and 10:30 at night, that's when we seem to get the most action. Have you had situations where the time of day played a role in the encounter?
Well, we don't do nighttime recon because grizzlies, so too dangerous. So we just stay at camp at night. But the pattern for nighttime is during the summer when the sun stays out late, they generally don't show up until about midnight. And, then as the days get shorter, it goes to about like half hour, 45 minutes after dark. They'll start wandering right up to camp, which we had happen to us last weekend. But yeah, in some of the areas we go into, we know we've got a sentinel on us, watching us and following us around the whole time we're there, day and night. But the rest of the gang doesn't show up usually until after dark, about at least a half an hour after dark. But generally, more like midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning during the summer months is when they'll be the most active.
Wow. So how has your great location been?
Well, this is only the second time we got to go up there this summer, and this time actually there was no burning ban, so you could have a campfire. That was nice because it doesn't matter what time of the year you're up there; it's too damn cold at night. And so, yeah, this time it was we got up there Saturday night, too late to grab our main campsite. Somebody else was already camping on it because weekend. So we had to go out of the valley down the pass to this other campsite that I had been on one time before, which is also really active. But by my estimation, it's in kind of a bad spot because we're on good relations with the ones that live in that valley up there. And on this other campsite, you're outside the valley and you're right where the spine of the mountain runs down the entire range. And they like to follow the spine of the mountain range going from point A to point B. And we found their trails on both sides of the campsite, which also means the road goes through there too. So go to the other side of the road, find their trail going up the hill. Go to the other side of the river from the campsite, find their trail going up the hill. So the problem here is that even if you've got like habituation enough that you get along just fine with the local population up there, now you're in an area where any of them wandering through the mountain range might just decide to come wandering through your camp in the middle of the night. So that made me a little bit paranoid. So we were stuck there Saturday night. As a matter of fact, by the time we, figured out where there was a campsite nobody was on, it was well after dark. So we had to use the car headlights to set up my tent, and I'm in there setting everything up. And Johnny got a campfire going. We sat out by the campfire for about an hour. There was hardly any firewood around there, and so we burned it up in no time flat. And it was getting really cold. And we were tired, so like, okay, let's go to bed. So I go back into my tent, and he gets in his car, reclines his seat back, pulls up his sleeping bag over him, and just kind of leans back, and that's how he's sleeping. And he's got the front of his car about 50 feet from my tent. And I'm still in my tent trying to wrap up in my, sleeping bag in multiple blankets like a cocoon so that no air is escaping or getting in. And it's so cold. I've got gloves on. I've got a hat on, and all of a sudden, and neither one of us were asleep yet. And I was still too cold and trying to get comfy. And he hadn't, apparently he had just run his car for about 20 minutes to warm up the interior and shut it off about 10 minutes before that. So here we are, and all of a sudden you hear this whoosh, whoosh, whomp, whomp. These are the two heaviest footsteps I've ever heard in my life. I've been right next at the circus, right next to an elephant walking past. No comparison. My initial reaction was a moose just came running into camp. But it was a moose is like a lightweight compared to whatever the hell this thing was. It had to be absolutely gigantic. So my reaction was I rolled over, reached out from my little cocoon, groped around, found my flashlight, turned it on, and just sat there. Now, if there's some kind of a wild animal out there, it just saw the light go on 20 feet away from it. What's it going to do? Is it going to move, growl, back away, be confused like a dumb moose? No sound, no movement, no nothing. So after about 5 minutes, I just turned the light off and cocooned back up and went to sleep because I figured it was a Bigfoot. So in the morning, I talked to Johnny about it, and he said, yeah, I was still awake when that happened. And I had the covers over my head, and as soon as that happened, I flipped them back and looked, and I couldn't see anything. And I could tell exactly where it stopped. He said, as a matter of fact, I had the feet of the sleeping bag right on the floorboard of the car, and the car literally shook both times he put his feet down. And I estimate he was about 25 feet from the car, about 25 feet from my tent. But yeah, that was pretty freaking scary. And then, of course, after we got back, we got a hold of Robin and asked her what was up with that. And it turned out one of them got the news that we were going to be bringing munchies, and none of them could figure out where we were because we weren't on our regular campsite, Dave. Other people were on it. So they had sent out little spies, and in this case, gigantic one, to figure out what campsite we were on. And apparently that's what he was there for. And, probably interesting reaction too. Like, well, these humans know that I'm here. Why don't I just turn the flashlight on? No shrieking, no tent unzipping, no saying, hey, who's there? This is not the usual reaction you get from humans when you walk into camp and they're awake and they know you're there. And I was just like, oh, I'd really like to unzip my tent right now and take a look at whatever's out there. But on the other hand, then I'd lose all the heat in my blankets. And I think I'd rather not freeze to death tonight. So unless I hear it moving closer to the tent, I'm just going to stay right here and assume I'm fine. And as it turned out, I was. But we did a whole bunch of reconning up in the area that weekend. The following night, the people that were on our campsite moved off of it because it was Sunday night. And, beginning of the week, they'd leave. We had Monday off. So we went and grabbed our regular campsite Sunday night, which was painful for me because now it's like, okay, I'd take the tent down, pack everything up, move everything, get over there, set up the tent again, unpack everything, move everything back out again. So I'm just beat, that plus all the hiking that we did up and down these ridiculously, mountain goaty places. And you'll see all of it. We had video of it. But that day we went down the pass and we walked. I found this one little access road that I had been looking for, and it's really hard to find. You can, even if you know almost exactly where it is, you can drive by it a dozen times and not notice it. So we were coming at it and I went, wait, I think this is it. Pull in here. And he goes, okay, this looks like a little loop. And that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like there's just a little loop that goes into the woods and comes right back out again. But if you actually go in it, there's another road that goes up the mountain from there through the trees that you can't see from the road. And I had found that one time before. So, and the last time I was up there, there was a lot of Bigfoot activity. And I had 3 of the files that I tried to videotape vanished. And I don't mean like snowball fights or static, or no, it jumped from number, 44 to number 48. Those files.
I got a question for you, if you don't mind, because I tried a glow stick at my research site the other day, and I got nothing from it. And Robin said to give it a try. Robin Haynes, that is.
Well, they all react differently to stuff, Dave. Some of them like stuff like that, especially if you just leave it for them, You're out in the woods, it's getting close to dark, there's one following you. Activate a glow stick hanging on a branch. Here you go, buddy. They'll definitely get curious and check it out as soon as you get out of there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been back yet since, and I probably won't be back. I'll have to send one of my buddies out there. But it's pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy. It didn't move, but I'm sure it attracted some attention.
Right on. So anyway, yeah, like I said, we hadn't been there in a couple of years. And the last time we were there, I got 1, 2, 3. I got 4 Bigfoot on video, and Mike, who was standing about 15 feet behind me, got 3 of them, including one that was partially cloaked, sitting in a bush right across this little creek from him, about 15 feet away, that he didn't even see at the time. Oh my God. Robin pointed that one out. Thanks, Robin. We all like PTSD. So anyway, there we are. This time we're not walking up the valley with a little river in it. We're actually taking the old road that goes up the mountain. And this is a really old road, and you can tell because it goes past an old falling down cabin. And you can't own property there. It's national forest. So that cabin has been sitting there a long, long time since somebody was actually allowed to live there. Whole roof has collapsed, and the road continues on past it. Now, the interesting thing about this road is about every 30 or 40 feet, there's a log laying across it. Not like a tree that fell over, but a log. Somebody moved this log and laid it across the road. And we've seen Sasquatch do this before, but these weren't particularly big. So we thought maybe had, somebody had a grow operation up there or something, and they were trying to discourage people from going in. But I also know there's Bigfoot up there, so I'm going in. So we kept going up this road, and every 30 or 40 feet, there's another log laying across it. Finally, we got a good distance up there, and there was a little side path that goes down to the river. I had been down that before, but I hadn't been any further up, and I had Johnny with me. He went down, checked out the river path, all clear, comes back. Well, now we got one that goes kind of straight ahead of us and one that angles off a little bit to the left. They're both going steeply uphill. The one that angles off to the left, I think, is the main road, and that's got, again, every 30 or 40 feet, there's a tree laying across the road. Only now we're getting to a point where it's not like something that's been moved into place. It's huge trees that have somehow fallen over every 30 or 40 feet. You can see the root balls and everything. Something pushed them over.
Right.
Every 30 or 40 feet, they're laying across the road. So, okay, well, this trail up here that goes a little bit more steeply but straight up, that one's open. And it looks like somebody's been up there. So let's go check that out. And we walked up there, and sure enough, somebody had been up there wood cutting. They had a whole pile of fresh cut logs and kindling, and they had a little fire ring, and they were probably getting ready to be up there for elk hunting season. And they were putting these logs across the trail to keep people from finding it. Okay, that makes sense. So let's check this other trail now that's now has full-size trees pushed across it. That looks very suspicious. We had to actually go around through their campsite and this little sylvan glen that looked like elves lived there or something to get back out on the trail again instead of wading over these huge trees. And as we started going up the hill, we noticed the same thing. And this was like not random. They were lying at perfect right angles to the road about every 40 feet. Only now these trees coming from both sides, by the way, not a random windstorm that just pushed them all over the same direction. Now they're like about 3 feet thick. And they're like, wow, somebody really doesn't want us to go up here any further. And I start turning my camera on and I go, okay, well, let's take a little bit of video here, turn around, go back. And as soon as I start filming, we hear 2 wood knocks. And then we walk back, followed our path back down the hill. We were getting close back to where the cabin was. And I go, hey, Johnny, you think they're still watching us? And he goes, I bet they are. Heard another wood knock. Like they're friggin' listening to everything we're saying, man. They're just reacting to it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, we got you guys covered. We're up here on the ridge listening to you. You're okay. We're watching you. Yeah, but yeah, we know you're up there and you don't want company because look at what you did to the road. We're leaving. Yeah, that one came into camp last night. They probably weighed about 2 tons. We got a pretty good idea on what's pushing these trees over. So we're going back down the trail now, and we're gonna leave you guys alone. So that was about it for that day. And then when we got back to camp that night, we had more activity. But you want me to save that until after the break? I can.
Well, we got about 1 minute here. And, I'm just glad that you got out of the forest safe, because safety is always the number one precaution when you are out there. And,
Absolutely.
and I know you're a clumsy dude. So any scrapes and bruises?
Nope.
Wow. You made it out alive, man. It's always good when you make it out of the forest.
No, just a lot of damage to my ankle and my back from all the hiking up and down the mountains and whatnot. And
Yes.
some of these slopes we scrambled up are like almost cliff. We had to stop about every 70 or 80 feet and take a breather before we tried to go any further.
I hear you. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio is here and back for the Cryptid Report. It's been a long summer without Super Duke, who's been hiding in the mountains of Montana, looking for the elusive Sasquatch and anything else that was cryptidy crazy in his area. when we return with Super Duke. We're going to find out more about what's happening in Montana. Ask him some big questions about Sasquatch as well. Final half hour, Spaced Out Radio coming up next. All right, Duke, we're clear.
All right, bud. I'm going to go have part of a cig here for a second. Yeah, you know, out of the last few years, I've found so many giant tracks, and I've actually seen Bigfoot a few times, and I've filmed him a few times, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A week ago on Saturday night, when that one came into camp and plopped his big fat feet down, that scared the crap out of me. And that's the same thing Johnny said too. I said, "You hear that last night?" He goes, "Yeah, it scared the crap out of me. My car shook." That sucker was big, really big.
That's awesome.
Creepy. Well, I mean, at that point, it's like, well, whatever's making this noise is like 30 feet away. Do I want to unzip my tent and look at it?
Did you snuggle up to him?
Hell no. I was snuggling up to Sushi. I had to keep him warm so he wouldn't freeze to death.
Oh, you brought Sushi with you.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's fine. It was warm enough for him during the day, but at night it was too cold. So that was a deal there.
Yeah.
Anyway, be right back.
Okay, buddy. I'm just going to stare at you people. All right, that's enough. See if we can move Super Duke's chair. Chrono Trigger. AZ Watts. How you doing? Vanessa, you wanted to know what combat fishing is? It's a nickname we give for fishing on the river down where I'm going because there's a lot of people down there fishing and they all try and steal your spots. So it kind of gets rough down there sometimes. So much fun. Serious stuff when you steal someone's fishing spot. Rich buddy, what's happening? Super Duke, Super Duke, the cryptid report with Super Duke. Hi, Duke. Your microphone's on mute.
Yeah, Super Duke needs painkillers. He's been breaking his back and working his ass off all summer, climbing up and down mountains, trying to find Bigfoot tracks.
Yeah. Super Duke needs a break. Mike Rivers, yes, we do have catfish up here, but they don't get anywhere as large as what they do in the south there. Right now in the rivers, the salmon are running. So you'll have pinks, sockeye, coho, and spring salmons, which Americans call king salmon. John P. Adventures, how you doing? Tim Mothman, can you give us a goatee update, please? Goatee update.
Goatee.
I'd love to try turkey hunting. We do have turkeys up here, just not in my area. Thank you to Donnie, Lori, and Debster for the great super chats. And
we've got some wild turkeys around here, but you don't see them very much. But oh my God, are there a lot of grouse running around this year?
Oh, the grouse are crazy this year. Grouse are crazy. Justin Hemmingson, how you doing?
Yeah, the ones way up there in the mountain don't know what a human is, so they don't even try and run away from you or anything. You can walk right up and step on one practically.
Justin, the springs are the late springs are coming in right now. They're not as pretty as the early springs. Here we go. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag. Follow us on Twitter or X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can also hang on out and join the Space Travelers Club on Patreon. Here we go. Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio comes in with the cryptid report. Duke, how you doing, my man?
I'll tell you what, I'm more intelligible than Ozzy Osbourne and more alive than Lemmy Kilminster with better hair than Dave Mustaine. So I can't complain.
I do have an update. My kid was throwing the horns up the entire time during Iron Maiden.
Nice.
Very proud of him.
I have never gotten a chance to see them live, and everybody I know that has says they always put on a great live show. So it must have been fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty stoked he enjoyed it. He loved Eddie. Loved Eddie.
Speaking of weird metal from even earlier than that, have you noticed that like Alice Cooper just released an album?
Yeah.
And it sounds like the same kind of music he was doing in the 70s, just as well written and everything, with even really creepy, ghouly AI artwork for all the videos and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Alice is great. Alice is great. And he's still got the voice at 70 years old. How old is Alice Cooper?
About 100.
How old is Alice? He's 75. God, he's older than my father.
Well, the nice thing about touring at his age is he doesn't have to put all the pasty makeup on to look undead now.
Truth.
Now he has to put on pasty makeup to look alive.
I agree with you, man.
Yeah, he was fun back in the day. I remember back in the 70s, you had that stage show where the Cyclops had come out on stage and he'd get beheaded and electrocuted. And poor Alice, he got killed like 4 or 5 times every show.
I've never seen him live.
Awesome. Puts on an awesome show.
All right, let's get to the Sasquatch report. How many encounters did you have in the mountains over the summers?
Oh, God. I don't know. Go back and watch all my scene reports. We had them following us around all summer long. Like I said last time I was on, when I was up at the ghost town in June with Kelly Shaw, he got 2 of them on video. And I got the comparison video for him, and that's still coming out because it's really good. So he's going to do an excruciating breakdown. It's going to take him a while. Probably be out the end of this month or sometime into next month. So, yeah. Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, Kelly Shaw himself. I've been taunting him for years, telling him you keep saying you want to film a Bigfoot, and yet I don't see you up here at my research area. You keep saying you want to see giant tracks, but I don't see you up here in my research area. Well, I finally convinced him to come up here and check it out because they only get up here to Montana about once every 2 or 3 years. It's a little bit too far away from where they live. So he had a whole bunch of stuff he had to do up here, sighting reports and different reports he got from different parts of Montana and whatnot, and had an afternoon to go up to one of my prime research locations. And like I said last time, we found a couple trackways and 19-inch tracks and a whole lot of other smaller tracks and heard whoops and wood knocks. And then Kelly got 2 of them on video right after they were to whoop. He just turned his camera in that direction and started walking, and there was 2 of them watching them.
Right on.
Yeah, as for me, I don't know. There's several of them in August when we had the one of them stampeded the cattle through camp in the middle of the night. That was fun. But some of those we've got to go through the comparison video I shot and see how many of them are actually hold up to scrutiny. Because when you come back and film it again the week later, if the thing's still there, it's not a Bigfoot. It's an anomalous object, shadow, stump, something like that. So some of them we got to go through and look at the comparison of the 2 to figure out for sure what we actually got. Several of them that we thought were Bigfoot definitely weren't. And a couple of them I'm still up in the air about. So, but we'll let everybody decide that when I do the debunkathon video and put up the comparison stuff, and you guys can decide if there's something there or if there isn't something there. Now, the ones that are worth really more scrutiny are the ones like Kelly got, where you've got 2 objects that were plainly there when he was there filming that are not there afterwards. And as I pointed out to him, over on the left of the frame of the camera as he's moving in that direction, actually, there's what looks like a medium-sized pine tree. That's not there in the next video.
That's awfully weird.
That was very large Sasquatch, just far enough back in the trees that it looked like a small tree is what it was.
Yeah. Did you find any rooted upside down trees?
No, we never find that. It's so rare that we find that. I think we've only found that like 2-3 times. Yeah, you find uprooted ones that they're doing weird things with, but generally not upside down. When Kevin Lang from the Glag Saga was up here with us, he found 2 of them that they had tore the whole damn trees out and turned them upside down. They had an X with the roots up on both sides. So clearly that's not natural. But getting back to what happened to us this weekend. So after we had the walk up the go here trail with all the pushed down trees across it and heard the wood knocks, we came back and went back to our already set up camp and started a campfire, and thank God there's plenty of firewood there. And it wasn't as cold that night. And we had like a half a moon and clear skies both nights. So there was a night light. You didn't need a flashlight really to walk around. And we sat there until probably around midnight, 11 o'clock midnight. And the fire was, stoked up to massive amounts. So I could see the fire blazing through the wall of my tent. That was pretty obviously seriously going fire. But Johnny didn't have a tent with him. So he's going, well, good luck. You're going to be down here by yourself tonight. And I said, no, I'm not worried about it. They're going to come past you. He's like, oh, yeah, right. So he goes up on the road in his car. He's not even on the campsite. He's on this big, wide open section of the road in his car, reclining in his car, sleeping there. So I had a great night's sleep. He, on the other hand, about a half an hour after he went to bed and turned on his car and warmed it up a little bit and then turned it off again, he had visitors. And he said there was at least 2, probably 3 or 4, and he could feel the car shaking as they were walking around it. And they stayed up there and pestered him for about 2.5 hours till he got finally tired of it and left again. I never had any problem with it. And this is a repeating pattern here, Dave, now, because I've been going up there long enough. And, they trust me as much as they trust a human. And they don't even bother to mess around with me anymore. But anybody new that I bring up there, they're under close scrutiny. So they will mess around. And I've had this happen over and over. We only have one person with me. The person that had on my show last weekend has had all kinds of Bigfoot experiences, not only in Alaska where they live, but in Idaho, as we showed on Sunday's show. And then up here, when they were up here with me in Montana, the first night we were camped, we didn't have time to set up both tents. It was dark. So we set up the big one, and both of us piled into that thing. And then we had them there walking, two really big ones, walking around the tent. And according to Sonny, who finally shook me and woke me up, they had been walking around the tent for the better part of an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you wake me up? And she goes, I was too scared. And I'm like, well, what were they doing? And she goes, they're going, and I'm like, yeah, they do that. And I go, I'll take care of it. And she goes, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go have a cigarette. She's like, what? And I go, yeah, I'm going to go have a cigarette. So I open up the tent, zip, get out of the tent. I know they're like right next to the damn tent somewhere, whether they're cloaked or not. I'm not going to bother looking for them. So first thing I do is there's no light there. I reach down and grab my flashlight. And I go, have you guys seen my new flashlight? It's really bright. I'm going to turn it on now. And I aim it at the ground, turn it on so you can see how bright it is. And I go, now you guys shouldn't be so close to the tent because you can't run away fast enough for me to not catch you in the beam of this thing. And I tilt the flashlight up and I start slowly panning around with it, giving them plenty of time to get out of the way and not get blinded, and demonstrate that it's, a lot brighter than a car's headlights. So I can see them 100 feet away. You need to stay further away from the tent. I can blind you with this through the tent. So at that point, I just turn the light back down again, turn it off, light my cigarette, stand out there for a few minutes. I can't even remember what I said. I was like saying something to him. I was just talking to him. And I didn't see him. But obviously they were right next to the damn tent somewhere because, you could feel the ground shaking when they're walking around
There.
So, yeah. So, again, that was a good example of how they like to do that. Even somebody that was with me, that's why they came up and did it. And then when I had Scotty there and we had separate tents, they came over and they were screwing around with his tent for like an hour and a half, almost, before he actually yelled loud enough to wake me up. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? He's like, something over here screwing around with my tent. So I got up and I pitched some wood on the campfire to make it blaze up again. And, generally when the campfire is really blazing, they don't want to come into camp. They wait until it dies down.
Wow. Super Duke. Unbelievable.
You just get used to it after a while. I know sometimes it is scary. Like when that big one came into camp last Saturday, that was freaking scary. I mean, when it takes a step and the car shakes, that's freaking scary. That's like Godzilla level huge,
Now, is it the same ones you've been having interaction with all summer, or did you try different places for different clans?
No, I get reports from further afield sometimes, but I can't really afford to drive a long ways. I'm lucky I can even get out to my main research areas, which are not all that far from here. And I've been going to these same areas for almost 10 years now. So they all know me really well. I've been there over and over and over and over and over and over every year. Generally, I'm there every month during the warmer months. Some years I'm at the main research area a couple times a month, every month for the warmer months. So yeah, they know me really well. So no, I'm not worried about them. They've kind of habituated to me to the point where it's like, I had somebody tell me that they've actually accepted me as a member of their tribe, and I wouldn't go that far, but that's what they're telling me. But I know in the cases of some other people that I've talked to that have long-term areas where they keep interacting with them over and over and over again, and especially like people that own homes that have got them around there and don't really react negatively to them or leave them scraps occasionally or something like that. If they see them, they don't freak out, try and shoot at them and stuff. After a while, they get so used to it. It's like the person, everything in that area of their territory is like under their protection. It's something that's in their territory. And if your house and property is in that territory and they more or less accept you as part of the territory, your house and property, and by extension, you are under their protection. Because it's like they don't want their property screwed up. It's like if somebody showed up in your property and started chainsawing your trees down, You wouldn't like that. If you had some little local animal on your property that you really liked and you watched all the time, and somebody showed up and started threatening to shoot it or something, you would probably react negatively. And whether they actually, like you, like in the way humans would or anything like that, or they've actually accepted you as a member of their, tribe, clan, whatever, they can at least get to that level. And we've seen that repeatedly, where they really start liking some human after enough years of having no problems with them or anything. And then something bad happens on the property, and something really bad happens to who made the bad thing happen on the property. Really close order of when the bad thing happened.
Yeah, I can see that. Did they leave you any presents?
No, but I did check where Santa Claus left them presents last year to see what happened to them. And it was interesting because Santa left them 2 stuffed raccoons, Chester cheetah, and then there's like a little blue thing that looked like a Smurf kind of or something, another stuffed toy, and a little pony. And 2 of them actually about that size. One of them was like regular brown, normal looking pony, and the other one was like rainbow unicorn pony with a horn that was all pearlescent and everything too. So when I came back this year to see what they gathered up from the rich haul of treasure that Santa brought them, of course, every last bit of food was gone, and all the wrappers were there as usual. Those don't get scattered around. They just chuck them right next to the rock. Let me come back and pick them up, which proves to me it's not random animals that are doing this, because they just drag things off. All of the trash wouldn't be there neatly in a pile, even especially a year afterwards. But one of the raccoons had definitely been moved from when I left it there, and it was actually in really good shape. The other raccoon hadn't been moved and had fallen over, and you'll see this on video, and the mice started eating it. So it had all kinds of little holes in it, and they were pulling the stuffing out of it and stuff. So that one, yeah, actually laid there for a year. The other one looked like it just came off the showroom, and it
Wow.
wasn't in the same position I left it in. It was right near it. And both the little ponies were gone. Now, Robin told me that after I left them there, that there was a little girl, a little female Sasquatch youngster, that just absolutely fell in love with that unicorn and took it. And the parents were not in favor of her having any toys that the humans left there. And apparently she stashed it somewhere. She never brought it back again. It's still gone wherever it was. And I was surprised to find out that the brown one was gone too. So one of them took that away at some point. But apparently the one little boy really liked the stuffed raccoon. But again, his folks wouldn't let him have it because, human left it might explode or have a tracking device in it or something.
Right.
So they made him bring it back again. But apparently he gets to go back and play with it if he wants to. So I took it and put it underneath his boulder where it wouldn't get rained on and ruined. So whenever he did show up to want to play with it, it would still be there for him. Left him a bunch more munchies, and then waded back across the icy frickin' river again to get back to camp.
Interesting. So, Duke, out of all the days you spent out there in the forest this year, were there any similar patterns or differences that you were able to notice?
Well, I've been doing this so many years now. It's mostly an environmental thing. It actually matters a lot what kind of the weather conditions are like, what time of year it is. Fires, if there's big fires and stuff nearby, they'll tend to move away from the area just so they can get away from the fire faster if they need to. And this year we had some expletive deleted loggers that had, for some reason, the lease to come through a national forest land and cut back all the trees within about 30 or 40 feet of the road, all the way down the road next to camp, about a half a mile down the road beyond it. And then when we wanted to go down the other access road beyond it, they had that all blocked off for some reason. They like to play these games. And they were again in there earlier this year pretending there was a fire there and had the whole valley blocked off. And we know exactly what they were up to. And again, miserable failure. You're 0 for 2. Quit wasting your time.
Yep, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. We got 2.5 minutes to go here with Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio. Duke, out of all the experiences you had this summer in your research area, besides the guy coming into your camp, was there anything else that was memorable?
Oh yeah, well, lots of moments during the summer when I found that 31-inch track this spring. That was pretty memorable. And when I found tracks apparently from the same individual in 3 different places in the same area in the subsequent month and a half that were all 21, 22 inches long, that was pretty memorable. And then the one other time that we actually got up to our main camp during the summer, all we could do was just a day trip. And right at camp, there was a 15-inch track in the sand crushed in. And then further away from it, where there was a little creek one had stepped across and left a 22-inch print and just mashed the bank down when he stepped on it. You could see the toes had like taken the bank out. And yeah, more vocalizations and stuff this year, but less actual physical sightings. And then, of course, having him create a cattle stampede through camp. That was pretty hilarious. I was not expecting that I would ever have cows in camp when I was Bigfooting, or that, something would decide to chase them out of camp and cause a stampede, which, yeah. Yeah, this is the Wild West and everything, but you don't expect to have friggin' cattle stampedes through your Bigfoot camp in the middle of the night. I mean, give me a break. Come on, that's a little bit much. And we got it on video. We got all 35 cows standing there, and I'm like, hey, 908, how you doing? 001, haven't seen you for a while, talking to all the cows and filming them. And all of a sudden, moo, and they're beating out of there.
Did you notice an increase in Sasquatch activity when the cattle were around?
Well, in this location, they got the high alpine cattle there all summer long, and I think the Sasquatch just follow them around, and the little ones play with them. Because we found a ridge line that it was so improbable that the cows would have went there on their own. All we can hypothesize is they actually herded them up there, and all over that ridge line there was cow tracks, cow poop, and lots of little Sasquatch tracks all over this ridge. And this ridge wasn't more than like 50, 60 feet wide and 120 feet long. And it required going over a lot of deadfall to get to it. So why in the hell the cows would be up there, I have no idea. That's one of the weirdest things we found all summer.
Duke, I want to say a big thank you for you coming back on Spaced Out Radio. It's been a while, my friend, but it's good to have you back. And I'm glad you're home safe and sound, along with Sushi, your bearded dragon.
Yep. Now it's getting ready for him to be going to nappy time here pretty soon. Next Tuesday, I have updates on the links between the red-haired giants in North America here and the Nephilim. And I also got some other stuff on tracks.
Beautiful. Thank you, Duke. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.
Nah.
Super Duke. Super Duke.
Yes, I'm here I be. Indeedy. I don't know if we're going to get up there we probably won't be doing any more camping. We might make it up there for a day trip before it becomes snowed in and we can't get there again.
Yeah.
Because according to Robin, the one that came into camp was disappointed with the donuts that I left, and he wants cookies. And, when somebody weighs 1.5 tons, 2 tons, wants you to bring them cookies, you bring them freaking cookies. So we're going to go up there again.
Very cool. All right, buddy. I'm going to shut things down early here because I got to do my editing in the morning here. But big thank you for coming on in. Very much.
You're very welcome. I always enjoy it. Love your audience. You guys are all great. And I got to go do edit too. I need work on more of inevitably finding Bigfoot.
Yes.
So, love you guys. Take care.
The evolution of finding Bigfoot lands in Super Duke's hands.
Inevitably finding Bigfoot. Well, the joke here is that by the time we actually go look for Bigfoot, I already have shown like 30 pictures. I mean, you saw one of the little segments, so.
Right.
Anyway, now I got to get the ones where we go back to our boring life after the big event, which was just like we find more Bigfoot because that's our boring life. Again, the same joke over again. But anyway, love you guys, and I'll take off and have a great night, everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to take off too. Thank you, Donnie, Lori, and Deb. And really appreciate each and every one of you being here. Tomorrow night on the show, Jason Gilmet from UAP Studies Podcast comes in to talk about UFOs over Canada. Yeah, where are they happening? Why are they happening? And so much more. We'll talk to you all tomorrow, guys. I'm feeling a little tired, so I'm going to get going here, and can't wait to see you all again tomorrow. See you in 22 hours. 21 hours. Yeah, 21 hours.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.